Hi, Sol.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, good morning. Or
Hi,
wherever.
Indra.
So cool to see you. Are you in Berlin?
Yes, but I am at home today. It's casual Friday.
Ah,
That's a nicer way today. Like the weather is super shitty and super gray
Uh,
and cold. Yeah, so it's not very inspiring to go outside.
up until April, probably.
Yes. Nice to see you. Yes, long time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
we're just waiting for two more people to join in, and then we can start the discussions. But before that, we can just chat, continue
About
chit-chatting.
the weather.
Yeah.
It's a classic.
Well, incidentally, I have a rain map behind me from maybe about the 1930s. So we can check which is the area you do not want to move to. Probably the Alps, like
Yeah.
here.
Oh, yeah, I was wondering. Okay, it's a rain map.
Yeah, it's also not really correct because I think they are missing some islands in the north, no, in the northeast of Germany. But it was a fun flea market find at some point.
It
That's
looks like
fun.
it's like something you can roll up like a scroll. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of these old teaching maps. Do you also have that in the US? Well, on the theme of education. So
Uh,
before Keynote, everyone was using this to teach school children's any kind of topic. So you had like prepared charts for your organs and the world map and rain and all kinds of plants and stuff, dissected animals in fun illustrations. So, and they were all on a textile background to, I don't know, to not break so easily. And I remember when I was a kid at school, then the best part was when you were tasked to go to the map room, and then they tell you, get the map from North Germany or something. And then we were extra slow, of course, walking to the maps room. And yeah, that was cool.
Hello, Jean-Baptiste. Can you hear us? Maybe not. We can't hear you. Ah,
oh,
no,
no, we
still
don't
no.
hear you. No.
I
What
can
about
see
now?
that you... Ah, yes. Now
Yes.
it's all good. How are you?
Well, I'm well. Sorry
Yeah.
for applying the standard 5 minutes delay, which is standard in Paris.
Well, we're still waiting for Renaro to come. I don't
I
How
It's
checked.
is it?
also like 6
Ah, yeah.
a.m. for him or something. No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it should be 7. Okay.
Still hard.
How are you guys? Hi, Indra. Hi, Cara.
Hi, Jean-Baptiste.
Long time no see. Like me.
I said the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it is what it is, right? It's
Uh, Distance.
I'm glad we reconnected. Yeah, yeah.
We all
Uh,
settled on Nantes now that we are gonna meet there.
Huh?
Yeah, we're all going to visit Lisa in Nantes.
Yeah.
It's just 2 hours for you from Paris.
Yeah, but I think
it,
Jean-Baptiste goes to Nantes every once in a while, no?
to Nantes, I haven't been in a while. No, no.
No.
I once gave a workshop there. But no, but I'm longing for opportunity to come to be back. I was asked this just yesterday. I know this isn't the topic of this of today, but have you all guys noticed how all type conferences have disappeared in the recent years, especially post-COVID? All those opportunities to meet again. meet in person, I mean. There used to, yeah, Indra, no, there used to
Well,
be a time.
typographics is still around.
Of course, I'm not saying all have gone,
Yeah.
but there used to be a time where around 2017, roughly 16, there used to be one type conference every month somewhere in the world. Yeah,
Okay, yeah.
yeah. So now we have so little opportunities to reconnect with the community.
Well,
Except
there's
on
still ATypI,
there's still a
still the
type
font stamp
Yeah.
conference. There's
We have Berlin
automatic type
Letters here.
conference.
Yeah.
Berlin Letters, Letrastica. I think there some of the old, like Typo Berlin, you're probably thinking died, but then also some other smaller ones. Like I was looking at the automatic type conference. I think it's at the end of February in Nancy. Have you heard about that one? So that could be a fun place to meet next.
The one I miss is Carling, the one in Faenza.
Yeah, that
Oh,
was
I was about to say that. Yeah, same. It's such a
I
nice
great
miss
weather.
that one. Nice food. I don't know. I loved that.
That's
for
true.
professional reasons, you mean, right? Nothing to do with
Yes, of course.
weather or the
Nothing
food.
to do.
Right. Yeah.
Not with my taste at all. It's my type taste.
Right. Yeah. I see I'm dealing with real professionals here.
Oh yeah, there you go. Good ideas in the chat.
Yeah, missing Kerning.
Oh, hello, Guillaume.
Cara, do you have news from Genaro?
Not yet. I just texted Shrinka also.
Yeah. They're in Mexico these days now.
Yeah, they are. They are. And they're 1 hour earlier than I am. So maybe he's confused with the time, but he could
Well,
still...
let's wait for him for a few more minutes. Yeah.
Or he went
There
for
are
tequilas last night. And he's dreaming at the moment.
Yeah. He's the one for whom it's the earliest, and on the other side, literature, you're on the later side. What time is it for you in Shanghai now? 8 p.m. or something like that?
9:10.
Oh,
9 p.m.
Yeah, in the evening. Yeah.
Yeah. Or do you know each other? Do you know a few people here, literature? Maybe you're...
I think I met Jean-Baptiste Levée 2 times in China, in Shanghai. Yeah. One is
Probably,
from
yeah.
last year, I guess,
Mhm.
in School of Visual Arts, Shanghai.
I'll be in Shanghai tomorrow, actually,
Oh,
whoa.
again. Voilà.
Okay. Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
No,
I'm
it's
looking
very, very cold winter in Shanghai.
right now.
Yes.
No, it's between around 5-10 degrees.
Plus
It's
the humidity.
Yeah, well, Paris is no better, for better or worse. But we'll see. I've never been at that time of the year.
Will you still be there for during Chinese New Year?
No,
No.
just no. I'll be by then I will be back in Paris.
That's something to see if you get another year, the opportunity to be in China during Chinese New Year.
I know it's
If
appealing from a cultural point of view, but from a business one, it's like expecting people to have availability during Western Christmas, right? Doesn't
Yeah.
make a lot of sense. Yeah. But yeah, well, who knows? Maybe.
Well, there are a few people watching on the YouTube broadcast already. It's always fun to see that. But I don't know what to do. Should we wait for a few
Or we
more
could
minutes?
just start and then
Yeah.
I
he'll
agree.
join when he's here.
Okay.
Mm.
Well, let's start. I will begin the recording. And well, welcome everyone to this Words of Type Conversation episode 2. This is something that I'm going to organize every 3 months as a nice moment to discuss and share our experiences and thoughts about all kinds of topics. Today, the topic will be learning and teaching typography. And I've tried to gather a panel of a panel of people from very, very various backgrounds. So I will start with Cara. Cara, you're a lettering artist, designer, and professor at Cooper Union in New York City. You're one of the founder and director of Type at Cooper program. And you studied at ENSAD in Paris, Hunter College in New York, and also that I didn't know, at Kyoto Seika University in Japan. And then Indra, you're a professor of typography at HBK in Saarbrücken, Germany. You've been teaching typography, and communication design in Germany and abroad for 25 years. You're also a freelance designer, writer, and consultant. You worked on multiple publications and for type designers, foundries, and companies of all sizes. And you founded, you said accidentally, Alphabet, the international network of women in typography, and lettering arts. Maybe you can say a few words about why accidentally. Then Jean-Baptiste Levée, you're the founder of Production Type in Paris. You developed your craft with Franck Jalot at École Estienne in Paris, and you pursued your what you called apprenticeship at Typophage and Typofonderie. That's also something quite rare now to have learned something from apprenticeship. And you also taught type design and typography at many schools, including Institut Français de la Mode, the French Institute of Fashion in Paris. Then we have Li Zhiqian. Li Zhiqian, you are the founder of the independent type foundry called 3Type in Shanghai. You're also a researcher, writer, translator, and designer in typography and visual arts. You've been organizing off and online workshops on typography in Shanghai with Type School since 2017. So that's great. And then Jen, whom we are still waiting for, Genaro Ramirez. He's a typeface designer and educator based in Guadalajara, Mexico. And with Rinka Burju Bazish, I'm always messing with her name. He co-founded Dual Type, a Mexican and Croatian type design studio between Mexico and the US. Jen has a background rooted in sign painting. I believe his father is a sign painter, and he's on a mission to preserve and promote the craft. He's also a teacher of type design and calligraphy, and also very active at sharing the knowledge in the Mexican type design community, but not only. And also, just a side note, we've been Zrinka, Jen, and I, we were at the same in the same class at Type Media a few years ago. So yeah, that's a broad introduction of everyone involved here in this discussion. And let's start with a few questions. We're still waiting for Jen, but whenever he'll come, he will just hop in and start the discussion together. I know that it's really, really early for him, so that's totally understandable. So again, thank you for being here today for this discussion. It will be recorded and I will make an article out of it for people who were not able to join the live session to still get our insight and discussion today. And okay, I will start with a few questions from me, but people in the chat, you can ask your question whenever you want, and I will go through them also afterwards. So yeah, please get your mind prepared and your questions prepared. So here, everyone here, I suppose you all have very different experiences with learning typography. That's why I tried to invite people from so many backgrounds and also from such a broad time zone difference. Whether that was about accessing to type design knowledge, to accessing to the knowledge, or starting to get experience in type design and the practice. What would you say that was most difficult, or what was the greatest, what had the greatest influence on you, or biggest impact on how you do your work and teach today? Let's start with this broad question, and you can answer in whatever order that you want. I am seeing, yeah, Jen is just joining. Hey, Renaro. Good morning. Thank you for being here. So early for you. Can you hear us? Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, yeah. I just made
Sorry.
an introduction of everyone, including you, and I've asked my first question.
Good. Sorry, I had my schedule says 9.
It's okay. So let me, well, I can, I believe that you know everyone that I've introduced earlier, except for Zhiqian, maybe.
Well,
So
not too bad.
let me quickly introduce each other. Zhiqian, he's a type designer and founder of a type foundry based in Shanghai called 3Type. And he's been organizing often online workshops over there as well on typography. And that's why I've invited him to join the discussion too, because I wanted to have a diverse panel of people here. I'm sure that you know Cara and Indra. Do you know Jean-Baptiste Levée?
No personally, but I know who he is.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we shook hands once in the past.
Great. Well, because it's beyond time, I will repeat only the question, and let's begin the discussion. So my question was about asking you, like, from your experience about learning typography and access to its knowledge and access to getting experience in this field and practice. What would you say that was the most difficult, or what was the greatest impact on how you do your work today and how you teach it? So please, yeah.
I suppose I can try and answer. For me as an art student in the 80s, there was no class in typeface design specifically. There was calligraphy, which I took and studied, and there were classes in typography. And typography, to me, the biggest obstacle was that the wisdom then was that you should just use the Vignelli's favorite typefaces and nothing else. And for me, that was forget it, deal breaker. I didn't want to just set Bodoni and Helvetica, So I would say like a narrow point of view, and also the expense, because of course, either you spent a lot of time setting metal type, or you spent a lot of money having your type set with a typositor, which was a photo typesetting machine. So yeah, it was expensive. It was extremely time consuming. And the people who taught had a very narrow frame of, what they found acceptable. So for those reasons, that was kind of sad, a sad moment in type education. Yeah. And
So who
I
else?
can maybe say something about the biggest influence with the background of studying in the 90s and also at a school that had almost no curricular restrictions, if you can say something like this. So we were super free in what we wanted to pursue or study. And then I cannot, well, it's really hard to think about my whole career when I know that so much was just by chance or accident, because you also brought this up with the alphabetists. But I remember that I always wanted to go to the Netherlands for its graphic design, but I ended up, I don't know, getting to know Erik Spiekermann, and because I invited him for a talk, and then he persuaded me to go to Berlin for an internship instead. But I was there pretty reluctantly and fought for like going to the Netherlands anyway. And then there was just like the chance of someone recommending the studio that they interned at, and then the chance of one of the designers studied with Fritz Meyers in that design studio, and she referred me to him, and I basically learned everything about type from Fritz Meyers, and it was all like completely by chance and influenced everything that I know about type, and also how I teach type, because he didn't study at The Hague with anyone like with Gerrit Noordzij, but even in Arnhem, where he was still based or where they studied, they were highly influenced by this school of thought, and also the basis of writing. It's not really calligraphy what they're doing, but writing. So I think this could have not been planned, but also could have gone completely differently. So that is something that probably most of us can say, that weird turns that you take at some point in your career lead to like completely different fields. And yeah, I don't know how to even recommend something like this or give advice to students to, I can only advise to be open for opportunities that come your way. And maybe even if they sound weird or scary, you don't know what's coming off of that. So jump on every opportunity that opens up in front of you.
So it wasn't planned from the very beginning that you wanted to do your career in typography?
Well, that was also super weird. I mean, not really. I actually also didn't even want to study graphic design, but chemistry. But then somehow I found, like, via the path of type classification, which sounds super weird, but I had that at high school. I thought, like, oh no, this is almost like chemistry. This is science. This is like really complicated words, and no, I'm interested in all of these different typefaces, and so that almost made me study graphic design and typography. But before that, I didn't even know what like the word typography meant before I went to university.
Well, how about you, Jean-Baptiste, Zhiqian, Fenaro?
Well,
What can you say?
it will sound like an old timer, but I remember very vividly about things that were very different when I was studying type design. That was around 2002, 2003. It's no different from some of the takeaways of Indra. I was taught mainly on an analog basis, because some educators were digitally advanced, let's say, and some others weren't. So the first observation is that we had to find ourselves tools and ways to convert the work, the analog work, to the digital world. And on top of that, there was very little available literature online because the web in 2003 wasn't as well developed as it is now. It was already nicely developed. It was already a reality for all the students, but there was no social media. The most useful resource was FrontLab Studio's manual that was online, and that was basically it. So what I usually tell students who are either in my class or who write to us asking for free fonts or 20,000 characters interviews is that usually the assignments they are given are first and foremost a lesson in resource management. And being a student means that you operate with rather limited resources. It was true during my studies. It is still true now. And back then, having limited available online resources meant that I was lucky enough to be in a school that has a nice library. So I spent a lot of time there. We could borrow 10 books per week, and I can tell you I was maxing out on my card every goddamn week, borrowing everything I could because this was the real deal, how to access knowledge, references, culture, how to enrich oneself beyond what was passed on to us during the classes. So these lessons have nothing to do with whether the web existed or not, whether social media existed or not. I think what I learned during my studies is how to manage with a limited resource, whether it's time, money, knowledge, tools. It's always about that, and it still continues after that in the professional world. So when students ask us for free fonts, I'm like, your teacher wanted to give you teach you a lesson with this one. So let me take 5 minutes of my time to explain why you can't get everything for free in this world.
You mentioned the books, were they all in French mostly? Or
I feel blessed. I can read German, I can read English and French. This covers, for the Western world, this covers about, let's say, 80% of available literature on type design. I was missing out on Italian calligraphy treaties, but once again, this is a visual art, so you can get a thing or two by just looking at the pages, and same for Spanish. I can't read Dutch, but the Dutch literature available was quite often also available in French. So language was not really the barrier here.
But I guess that you were also, like, as students, since it's always about sharing all the tips between each other, without the social media or blogs, sharing blogs or things like that.
It's always like that in class. There's always, let's say, 1-2 students per 10 students that are geeking, that are digging more, following rabbit holes. And when the class dynamics works well, these people usually pull other people at their level. When it works well, it's really nice. It doesn't always.
How about you, Zhiqian?
Okay. Let me share some story of mine. Yeah, actually, I think there's a very important point, which is in 2007, that I think everybody here have watched that documentary film Helvetica, and I think that is kind of enlightenment to the Chinese type emitters or the community that it is the first time that people know that a single typeface can have such a long history and related to so many culture, technology, so many design ideas, and it is still so popular after 50 years. So in 2007, a friend of mine and me and other 3 persons, we translated this the subtitle of this documentary, and we did a lot of screening in China in many cities. And since then, I'm getting into typefaces, and I have wrote many articles about Western typefaces. And at that time, there was a blog called Type is Beautiful. It was founded by a high school student in London, and he was studying. I think he's going to. He was studying economy in school, but his interest is typography, so he founded that blog, and I was one of the contributor of this website. And later they changed their name, so they're called The Type now. And I have learned a lot by myself about typography, about typeface history, about how to design type. But I have never thought about to be a type designer at that moment. And in 14 years ago, in an annual gathering of type emitters in Shanghai, that we happened to meet an old person called Chen Qirui, and he said he is the oldest generation of Chinese type designers in China, and I think he was around 60s at that time. So he is 81 this year, still alive. And he told us a lot of stories about the beginning of Chinese type design history. And he introduced a lot of his colleagues and his friends to us, which I did a lot of interview to them. Over 40 of them, yeah, type designers, typecasters, manager of type foundries, and manager of Shanghai Printing Institute. And I did a lot of research. So it is called Shanghai Type Project. Maybe you can check later. There's a website called shanghaitype.org. But I think, unfortunately, it is all in Chinese. And in 2017, I founded 3Type with another friend, and we introduced the glyphs to China, and we invited a lot of Western type designers to China to teach how to design Latin typefaces. And during that process, I was an organizer of those type schools, but I'm also a student of these type schools. So I have learned type design many times from 2017 till today. And I also have learned a lot of how to design Chinese typefaces through those old type designers, because I have interviewed with them a lot. And I think next year I'm going to release the book of past typeface designer called Zhiqian. I'm going to release his book because I have a big collection of his drafts, his archives, and his photos, his type sketches. Because after his death, nobody in his family is doing anything related to type or graphic or art. So they throw all his things away to trash. And his daughter once visited his father's home and see a lot of his papers in the trash. So he took it and give it to me. So I have kept his sketches and his things, and I will publish a book about his stories and showing his articles about how to design Chinese typefaces in the book. And currently, I'm also interviewing another very important type designer in China, which is Sammy Oh from Hong Kong. and because he is going to retire, and he did his last typeface Metro Song last year, I think, yeah, and it is finished. So he is going to retire, and I have interviewed a lot of his stories, and we try to record his experience of how to design specific characters and write a book for him. So it will be in the future. So my learning process is really difficult. But when I start learning, there's not a systematic body of knowledge that I can quickly study or follow. And even today, I cannot say there is. And my learning process for Chinese type design has been like collecting shells by the sea. So I spend a lot of time gathering various of shells, and in the end, I'm trying to make them a beautiful necklace.
Yeah, that's gonna be a really long necklace, no?
Yeah.
You're
It's
gonna need a big bag for
yeah.
all this shit.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's I think what you've been saying, Zhiqian, is something that even in the Latin world, we are all feeling like it. Learning and teaching, it's two things that are always going together. When you learn, you can also, like, even when you're teaching type design, typography, you're still learning on the way at the same time, and that's an incredible, very interesting thing. How about you, Kenaro?
Well, I can say that my learning process is divided in 3 phases. First was the traditional way in the sign painting workshop, where most of the learning process was just instructions for my father, right? Like, you have to do the strokes in this way, these letters go in the way. But at some point, I got really curious to figure out who decides those rules, right? Like, who is behind the block model letters? Who is behind the logos that we were reproducing in the shop? Like, who is taking those decisions? And I got really curious and very hungry about knowing. I don't know if it was something psychological that I was trying to be more than my father, right? Like, to tell my father what to do, because he loved all the typefaces that were in one book. It wasn't a book; it was a catalog for letra set. But here in Mexico was Meca Norma, the brand that dominated the market. And then my father loved that catalog, and he knew most of the alphabets by memory. He had a lot of typefaces that he loved in that book. But I knew that those letters weren't uh, uh, generated spontaneously, right? Someone had to decide them. So when I was pursuing graphic design in the university, and it was like, this is the second phase, and it was the biggest disappointment, because at school they didn't had a proper typography class, no even type design or nothing related to that. So the typography class was really sad.
Where was that?
Here in Guadalajara.
Ah.
It was really sad. And most of the graphic design, it was still the remnants of the architects trying to teach graphic design. So everything was pure geometry, proportions, and color, but no type. No, not even setting type. It wasn't a thing until I don't know, last semester I had an editorial design professor that kind of introduced me to mobile type and setting, but it was more like in my own pursuit of knowledge than rather he teaching that in the class. And then I had a big void of just of no type until my third phase, that I will call the professional phase, or the professional learning phase, where I went to Cooper West, and then eventually to Cooper Union and to Type Cooper in New York, and then Netherlands. So I put it in the same phase because for me it was 2 years, 3 years in a row of learning type. But that phase really broke me, right? Because the teaching, there was no geometry, there was no strokes, right? Like brush strokes. It was no shape. It was like writing, like everything was coming from writing. And his different, for me, was an experience, a unique experience, because we don't have references in a traditional way. Like it was mostly trying to figure it out where everything is coming, but not even in a historical way, like in a practical way. And then everything you do comes from your own research, from your own process, right? So it was rather unique. I think you witnessed that last part in The Hague in the Netherlands, right? Like I was a quite stubborn guy, like trying to put my brushes in front, and the teacher was no brushes, no brushes. Don't paint letters because you are good painting. You have to explore differently. And I was no, I don't want it. I don't want it. But eventually I did it. Yeah.
Well, it's the part that is also amazing with typography is that you have so many tools, so many different techniques to do not even really the same thing, but still around letters and characters and glyphs, things like that. Yeah, but for Zhiqian, Genaro, Jean-Baptiste, well, even like Indra and Cara, when you're trying to teach those concepts that are rather specific to Latin type design or specific to one script. I'm thinking of literature with Chinese. When you're trying to teach that to people who are not familiar with that particular script, what would you say that was or that is most complicated to explain or to make sure that your student understand that thing? Or maybe there were things that you thought were completely like things that you didn't really need to explain, but still that you realized, okay, yeah, that's something that I need to explain to make sure that it's all clear. Indra?
Well, most other script systems are more complicated than Latin. So whenever I have like Asian students or students from an Arabic script background, they are sort of, I don't know, relieved that it's pretty easy for them because they are sometimes usually better at writing or approaching letter forms because they have more of a calligraphic background than the German students. But what I sometimes get as a question more from children is like, why do we have like capitals and lowercase, and not, why do we have so many different forms of the same letter, in the sense of you also have an italic form, the standard Roman form, and a caps form, and that is something that like some other scripts don't have. Some have their other peculiarities, like 3 forms for the Arabic letters, but yeah, I think, and then there are always like more complicated letters than others. I mean, no one is looking forward to writing or designing in S or Z or something, but I think the Latin script is actually pretty easy to get for, or easier to get for global students.
Well, easy at first, but there are many things around that.
I don't know. Maybe it's also because it's my native script is that I see it can take a lot of variation. I mean, you can be in the general area of a form and we can still read it. I mean, that is so amazing about reading, that we we don't really have to follow the traditional form really closely. And that's sometimes what I see with students who are not super familiar with the script, that they are sticking to the more traditional ways. But sometimes you get super creative forms from students who are not super familiar with the script, because they don't have the bias of everything that we've seen for 30 or 40 years. So I've also just been at the Morisawa Award jury, and there I think you sometimes saw maybe more creative forms from what I guess designers not native in the Latin script, like in the countries covered by the Latin script, because they, I don't know, they had fresher eyes or fresher approaches to it. And so I think it can be really what do you say, like worthy or enriching from both sides.
Yeah, that's I'm thinking of what you said, Genaro, earlier about the sign painting approach to like hardcore type design made in the Netherlands, like how you can get diverse approaches to that and how it can diversify it. Okay, I'm
Well,
thinking of.
I can tell you that now, after I put all my pieces together after Netherlands, that I'm teaching type design, yes, but also I tried to tell students to use, instead of using broad nib edge, to use the brush for understanding 80% of the modulation that Latin type has, because a lot of students, they don't know where the serifs come from, right? Like, well, they know that Father Caris, he 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 understood how Romans were doing the serifs, but they don't know why the serif transitions from a simple stroke, and why small features of the type has that thingy that comes in some spot. Well, the brush has all the information. So I would say that if I had the chance to make a program here in Mexico, I will add for sure brush calligraphy, even brush for sketching, right? Like trying to put together uh, everything I learned in Netherlands with everything I had in my background and everything I'm discovering now. Like is really nice, because the stroke Jerry Northside theory or method for teaching is really nice, but it's quite bidimensional, right? When type design and letter forms have many dimensions, and now with all new technology and variable fonts, you get to see and to explode all those dimensions too.
Yeah. I remember one of your classes, Cara, at Cooper Union, where it's calligraphy, but with a like that wooden stick, where it's not like the brush, but it's always the same width for calligraphy. And like, what do you think about what Genaro has just said, like that the thing with brushes and?
I definitely see a difference. People who have any background in calligraphy or brush writing, sign painting, that when they are learning to draw type, they have maybe the awareness of what they know isn't even necessarily so top of mind. Like they don't even, it's just becomes kind of a natural assumption that the forms would follow how a tool would write. But someone who doesn't have that experience isn't making that connection, right? So as part of type education, I would say, even if you are just learning to understand where this all comes from, not necessarily to be a sign painter or to be a type designer, to be a calligrapher, because those skills take such a long time. If it was dependent, if you to be a type designer, you had to already be good at calligraphy or good at brush writing, it would take so long to learn. But so there, you know, we have to appreciate the Nordside sketching techniques that really make a shortcut there for people who don't have that training. But yeah, I'm not sure if I answered the question, but for sure, I think if you're learning type design, you should touch some tools for a while, some writing tools of some sort, just to, I don't know, there's some learning that you learn that maybe you can't really verbalize, right? It's just a matter of that experience and the experience of like, knowing what to expect a tool to do, what a tool can do, and then you just can internalize that. And as you draw, you are still sort of summoning on some level that experience to inform how you draw.
I can't imagine being at the same time interested in type design and not being interested in tools in general or the culture that surrounds the practice of making letters. Right now, I'm not interested in all ways to make letters. Some are really beyond me, but at least
Like what?
until I decided this is not interesting to me, I wanted to know a bit about it. And it's what Cara says echoes the fact that if you want to be good at anything, rule number one is being curious about it. So if you have all rights not to be interested in calligraphy and or lettering or letterpress, it's fine, and I don't believe it's a requirement to be good at that, to be a good type designer. Definitely not. But not being curious about it sounds like a paradox. But it's true for any field of study in general. Like you can be a good mathematician, I guess, without being super hardcore about astronomy. Yet the fields are not disconnected. So ignoring calligraphy, ignoring brushes, broad pen, broad nib, it is okay, but not being interested. Not being interested is okay, but not knowing about it, it sounds weird.
Yeah. Well, Jean-Baptiste, you taught, was it typography to students in fashion only, or like did you teach also typography to like proper graphic design students? And is there a difference? Did you feel like a difference between teaching type design or typography to students in fashion and students in graphic design?
Yeah, of course. Well, these are students in fashion image, so it's not quite about making fashion artifacts or clothes. It's about
Yeah, well, we're branding the brand.
devising images and yeah. I've taught to students of all levels, from beginners to postgraduates, from students in graphic design to people who had very little, if no, design education, depending on the context. I guess your question is more about how to get people interested, whatever the background is. So of course, right now, the class that I teach is for students in fashion image. So my class has to show that there's an obvious connection, and it's my duty as an instructor to make my discipline as appealing to others as it is to me, and because they are not in the first place graphic design students. You want to show bridges between fashion and type, and between branding and typography, and between art directing, type design, and art directing photo shoots.
Yeah. Well, there are other questions. Maybe it's still related from what you've just said, or from what everyone just said. were there any, like, what was the biggest changes from in the type design education from when you started yourself learning typography and type design, and when like right now, when you're learning, when you're teaching it to students today from all kinds of backgrounds and with all kinds of interest towards typography in terms of technology or access to the knowledge from before internet to now.
Changes there. Yeah. A lot of changes.
Everything has changed and nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Like Jean-Baptiste and Zhiqian, when you described how you learned it, it was really like the apprentice to master kind of relationship, like the old school learning environment. I think that's something that is quite rare today.
No, I don't think so. It's just that it's maybe less visible. But if you dig deeper in people that are in their 30s right now, or that are not young professionals but not veterans either, there's always one person with whom they were in direct contact who was more influential than another in this regard. It doesn't need to be labeled a mentor to have a mentor-like influence.
Yeah, well, that is true. Here in Mexico, we have a division. Like I would say that schools are just getting, they are updating their curriculums, but they were really behind for years, teaching in a really old way and without any like relationship with the industry or how the technology was developing. Now, type design here in Mexico, at least the community is introducing a lot of the techniques, methods that are like globally being adopted. Like the north side way of sketching now is a lot of students without a formal education are implementing those kinds of techniques, and universities are starting to see that and trying to implement also those new techniques. But for many years, type education in Mexico was really behind.
And I think the type design education in China is still missing in the education in those schools, those universities or art schools. Yeah, they have a kind of program about type design, but the teacher is not a real type designer. Normally, it is a graphic designer or from calligraphy department, like in China, 中国美术学院 Chinese Fine Art of China Fine Art Academy. Yeah, yeah. They have
CAFA.
CAFA. No, CAFA is CAFA. I don't know. 中国美术学院.
Yeah, I think
I think
it's
they have
yeah.
They even have PhD program, but I checked those teachers' name and I found they are not really type designers. So I think in some in art school or design schools in China, they have type design programs, but the education is in fact is missing because the teachers are not really type designers. And on the other hand, you can I think the best way for your learning is you join a type foundry in China, like in Fangzhen, Founder Type, or in Hanyi Type. You join the foundry and you work under experienced type designer, like apprenticeship or learning from him for a long time. Then you can you can know how to design Hanzi, or you can work like Tao Di now in monotype. His supervisor is Akira Kobayashi, so he learned a lot from him. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Or
that's
the other way is the other way is to learn from Type every summer.
yeah. Yeah. But that's kind of that kind of brings an imbalance with accessing knowledge of typography. Like you don't have the same number of seats available, whether you are in Europe or in the US, and whether you are in Southern America or in Asia. When it's a one-to-one relationship and learning and teaching process compared to even like one teacher teaching a class, it's a completely different relationship.
Yeah, it's very different. Yeah, and in China, there are you can find a lot of online courses about type design, called 字体设计. But actually, if you check those programs, you will find they're teaching you how to make a lettering or how to make a logo type. So many people are confused with type design and lettering and other things in China.
And Aro, is it similar in Mexico? Like I've never been there. I don't know nothing about about it there. What would you say that is different, or is there a difference between the type design teaching scene in Mexico?
Well, now we have an independent scene of type design teaching. So that is really nice. We don't have a formal program currently. We don't have a master. We don't have a. We have, of course, the courses in the university, but the teachers in the university are making the change now. They are changing. They are, as I told you before, they are implementing these new methods and ways of teaching type, but also that is spreading to the community in a no formal way. So I would say that is really beautiful, but still we need a formal program. So we have this kind of apprentice master relationship in a more collective way. We have like groups of people that is following one person, and there are several like cells of this kind, but we don't have formal education right now.
But it feels like having a formal education, as you say, almost depends on the technologies that are available. Like since internet and access to digital tools, access to international classes from everywhere, that's something that helps. And Jean-Baptiste, I guess that you began studying and learning typography before all those internet, and like you're not that old, but
No.
it's
Yeah. Well, Indra mentioned earlier in the chat that there was also this there was a forum that was extremely active, that was massive resource, and also
typophile.
typophile, an historical record of all things that animated the community from the, let's say, late 1990s to mid 2000s, roughly, which was an era of it was still whispering. The activity was still whispering. It was way less um, let's say overwhelming than it is now. So I'm 43. I graduated 20 years ago. When I graduated, the threshold to professional type design was neither easier nor harder. It was just different. I would hate to start a type design career right now because everything's leveled. Everyone has a great Instagram presence. News, ideas, trends spread in a different way than they used to 20 years ago. but at the same time, the fact that the multiplication of type design course, which is something we all hoped for, led also to a relative saturation of the offer on the market. 20 years ago, it was the difficulties were very different. There was fewer competition. There was already big names and big players, but client education was in such a state. I'm mostly talking about France and the Western and Europe. Client education was in such a state that the difficulty was to find clients. It still is in a way, but clients are, I guess, are a bit better educated now. 20 years ago, custom type projects were for brands like Canon or airline companies, or it was always massive companies. And now we have people that are able to find an outcome drawing type for a restaurant or a coffee shop. Is it better as it was? I have absolutely no opinion on that. I'm just saying that back in my days, fewer students, smaller outcomes, fewer opportunities, but also fewer competition and fewer exposure. So is it better now? As I said, I'm happy with my with the opportunities that I had in my professional life. I'm not sure I wouldn't be as terrorized as I was back then, trying to start a career now, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I understand that with the overwhelming amount of information from everywhere and how speed everything is. It feels like it's a race that is hard to be part of, maybe. Like in China, I'm sure that everything is moving super fast.
Yes,
And
but the production process of making a Chinese type takes a much longer, way longer time than Latin. So everything is taking fast, but you don't see many typefaces quickly coming out.
so while you do something, while you produce a Chinese typeface, you have time to still learn and think of all kinds of things at the same
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. But there's a trend that many young graphic designers or type amateurs, they have an idea and they make I think dozens of characters and they show off in Xiaohongshu in social media in China, and they got a lot of likes and that's finished. And they propose their work to some design award and they get awarded and that's end. Yeah, I think a lot of people maybe they're thinking of they're waiting for AI to help them in the future.
Eh. There's a question from Joao, who's been asking, as a counterpoint to the unavoidable calligraphy and traditional tools, how do we square up, pun unintended, the recurring offer of modular typography, workshops, exercises, his field of activity right now in design programs? And how many of you had contact with those exercises as either students or teachers? And how was your experience? Yeah, modular assignment, that I got that a few times before too. Who wants to reply?
Well, I already replied in the chat a little bit, but both as a student or teacher, or as I wrote that I actually started with bitmap fonts. Also, when I worked with Fritz Myers, who taught me calligraphy or writing, he also suggested as a help for my first typeface to have a bitmap grid in the background. So the first thing that I drew was actually like a really coarse bitmap representative of the Latin character set, and then shaped my outlines around this because I think it helps with proportions and just like it gives you sort of like some guidelines that are not I don't know, guidelines that you don't have to draw in your font editor. And then I basically also made a career in out of bitmap fonts for a while, but they're not really necessary anymore. So I'm actually also a past typeface designer more than a current one. But I still like teach that in every graphic design class that I, or included in every graphic design class that I teach, that we do writing and calligraphy with brush and nibs, but also usually do like a pixel font in FontStruct. I don't know if you still know this program, super old website, but web-based. So it's really easy for all the students who might have PCs or Macintosh laptops or even a tablet. And what I like about it is that it gives some quick results and can get students excited for learning or looking into it more. Because I mean, what do you do with like a first contact workshop that is like 1 or 2 days or even like 3 hours or so, and you want the students to leave with exciting, type is super, this is perfect, I want to keep pursuing this. So I think this is a good way that any result is kind of exciting and they see like, wow, I can export this as a font file. And I don't think anyone leaves thinking, oh, this is super easy, I'm a perfect type designer right now. But I think it is a good taste maker that I would recommend to at least not verteufeln, I don't know, bad mouth or something.
What? Sorry?
So I think like maybe it's easy to look down upon these kind of exercises because they're so I don't know, less refined or not so super academic. But I think it's really good to have that in your toolbox if you want to work with students and get some good results.
I can say also, every year we have one workshop for the extended program that's called Proportions, but it's basically drawing type on a piece of graph paper and making those decisions about proportion in a very coarse way. But it's such an important lesson that students carry with them in their original design to have something in mind that's, you know, an underlying structure, even if it's, you know, well, we all know, you know, once things are scaled to a certain tininess, the proportions are all that's left. That's, you know, how closed, how open. So just, you know, for any understanding of what, you know, very small type is, having that practice of having drawn on a coarse grid, super useful. You know, John Downer, who teaches that, he often mentions that like sometimes when he would be painting on really like on the side of a building, if there was bricks, he was just counting the bricks to make the letters. Like, well, now he knows how wide the stem is. It's 3 bricks wide or it's 10 bricks wide, right? Like that's so this idea, and that's for something that's really big, but that needs to be seen from really far away. So this idea of, you know, the proportions being tied to something like that. And, you know, truthfully, the math under there, it is tied to that, right? All of the coordinates that are being captured as you're placing nodes, that's basically landing on a grid and you're choosing how refined that grid is. John famously designs his type using 5 units at a time, right? Like he's not even choosing, which people find kind of funny and charming, but yeah, he did it with bricks. So he just figures, yeah, you don't need less than 5. 5 is enough. So I want to say, yeah, for that purpose, if the question is more about like super reductive form, sort of Bauhaus style idea of putting together an alphabet, I think that's a good graphic design project. I don't know that it teaches that much about typeface design. It gets people in close to the ballpark, but I think, you know, it's something that's more accessible for people who have less understanding of type or, letter structure, but still, like Indra said, people can read all sorts of things. You can think an octagon is an O, or a racetrack is an O, or a swiggle, and people will see animals and clouds. So it's not that hard to make make an alphabet that has some harmonious connections and some rhythm. Whether that will work as type, maybe once or twice it would, but then how useful, right? Like the study to do something that's widely useful to people is a much more complex endeavor. So yeah, there's limited usefulness of doing very reductive geometric forms for type.
Then Trenaro, you were saying what? I can see most of letters. I can see most of letter with 2 units except E. How do you solve it?
Yeah, Joao is saying that he only needs 2 units.
I have an entire typeface with Latin, Greek. I didn't do this really yet with 2 units by 2 units, but it follows Nordse's theory. So I've been working on this for the 14 or 12 years, I don't know. So I'm not a student, I'm a teacher. So I did like 3 years ago, and I know it's limited usefulness. I have a very legible one, which is 3 by 5. So, and it has strokes and triangles making strokes. So it's, as a teaching tool, I'm not saying that it's useful as commercially. It's not viable commercially, though Professor George Reis would disagree. He does a career out of having some patrons and clients that like it, but it's not as geometric as mine. It's more figurative sometimes. He's playful in a way that I am not. I'm a traditionalist. He's a postmodernist, postmodernist, neo-postmodernist, if you will. I'm the Apollinian. He's the Dionysian guy. So it's one of my supervisors. If you want, I can show it to you. It's just throwing it out there, but as tools, not as a commercial endeavor, I think. So I'm aware of that. It's not new information. Font structs, I don't know if any of you worked with it, but it's basically that's it. So you can do anything with it, and it's basic. It's not glyphs. I work on glyphs, so that's why I can do all the entire character set. So just and I can show it to you after. I don't know if I can post things.
If we have time, yeah, or you can post it on the
I will look for it.
community,
I
yeah.
don't know how I do it. Yeah, I can show it to you later.
Yeah.
It's on my banner, actually. You can see it's my banner image on my profile. So it's literally the 2x2 font. So I don't really need to post it. It's there.
Yeah.
Bye.
What about teaching teaching those typography covers so many different tools and shapes and everything. Is there like a common guideline that you try to keep when you're teaching typography to students? When it's going between all the traditional part, the historical letter forms, the metal type technologies and the shapes that came out from that period, and today all the bitmaps and digital tools that allows much more freedom, even like for example, color fonts or things like that. Is there like a common fil rouge, like a thread that you try to keep, like a
But
lighthouse?
No, or the others about this the module, or no, everyone?
To the guests, yeah.
Oh, to the guest. Well, I try to put them to teach them the variants in form, the G's, the A's, the italics versus, and they don't have to be italics. Color, we don't work with color because we're technologically limited with those tools. Though we do color with WoT, which is a more advanced stencil, and we do gradients, but it's more of an expressive tool, not probably. Well, I try to encourage them to do that, but they don't really do much. I haven't done much in that regard yet. So
Yeah. Indra, you wanted to say.
Maybe my what did you say, like roter Faden, like rouge, something you said, like, oh, the
Fil
recurring
rouge.
theme is to
Yeah.
to try many different tools, and especially also to have some which are like related to the pointed nib um, principle or form, or I don't know, style, as you would call it. Because I think one of the good things about teaching letters, I mean, you ask about typography, but maybe you mean type design or something. But of course, I also teach typography. And one big thing that you, I don't know, need to get a feeling for is choosing typefaces. And I think this whole exercise in designing letter forms, writing, lettering some, and then also maybe make a pixel font is also that you get a better feel for typefaces and how the different forms come about, and then maybe also to recognize these in typefaces that you will find in your Adobe menu or license or something, and maybe also what typeface would be good for what application. So because all of the graphic designers that I teach, they rarely become type designers. It's like every 8 years I have one or something that goes on to a master's program or something. But all of them have to choose typefaces all the time, and like seeing the difference between a Renaissance serif and classicist, or like a modern and old style serif, that is really hard for people who have not trained their eyes, and but they work completely differently. So this is the good thing about calligraphy, that you can get a feel for that by using a broad nib pen or a pointed nib or something.
Well, yeah. Well, it's already almost time. Maybe some. Joao, you have one last question? You can turn your microphone on. Joao, we can't hear you. Your microphone is off.
sorry, it was muted. To take on Indra's take a little bit. I was mentioning on the modular typography workshops where I actually teach type design on typography proper. We actually talk about history in general, a bit of we also talk about taxonomy. I like mentioning Indra's work. I've been reading it for a while. Also Catherine Dixon's work, though it's so advanced that the head teacher precludes me from using it as an evaluation point. So they only use Ellen Lupton's system and a bit of Brinkhurst's, but mostly Ellen Lupton. So it's not the complicated stuff, very advanced stuff, but I like for them to know that it exists if they do become type designers or more advanced designers and want to really dig in deep, become academics and whatnot. Because we do have the theoretical part on the second year, and then some of them may want to do a PhD. So, I think they have to know these things.
Well, to finish our discussion today, maybe one generic question for this kind of thing, for this kind of topic. If you were to share one word of wisdom from your experience to any new student in type design, or even almost graduating, or a new person starting on typography and type design, what would that be? Piece of advice.
Okay.
Yeah, it's hard.
Yeah, well, I would tell them to focus in the process, especially graphic design education here in Mexico is about the results, right? Like we are results driven, and it's probably really efficient, right, for the economy, but we lost or we miss a lot of richness with that mind, a set of mind. So I would say like try to focus on the process.
By process, you mean the tools and techniques?
No, yeah, the exploration, the research, the prototyping, the testing, like everything goes before the results. Because sometimes they are really eager to get to the result that they just jump, and then they come one day with the final result, and then what is this? Where is this coming from? Right? It doesn't have any grounding, doesn't have any connection with nothing. So it is really common here.
It's funny that the German teaching focuses so much on the concept that we sometimes forget about the process and the results. And at the end of the semester, there's a lot of talking about the concept. Great concepts, nothing to show.
How is it like for French students, Jean-Baptiste?
I have a very ambiguous relationship with concepts. So on the one hand, I have a high esteem of my craft, but on the other hand, I'm trying to convey the idea that because it's mostly a visual, very practical based discipline, concepts are most of the time useless, and they are used as a post-rationalizing system for both the students and the jury. Maybe I'm not a very good teacher because of that, but for me, if it looks good, feels good, and fits, then it's good design. And I remember Indra once wrote that her best advice on how to choose typefaces, for instance, is step 1, pick 2 typefaces that look good together. Step 2, done. And I believe type design is as direct as this designing type or choosing type or associating typefaces can be as direct and straightforward as this. Because a good concept with poor execution will look interesting, but it's not the way I believe design has an effect in our visual, in our public space. But good execution with poor concept, as far as retail type goes, it can go a long way, actually, surprisingly, because once it gets out of your hands as a type designer, it's used by so many different people that expecting people to see exactly the same thing as you saw in your own designs is a bit pretentious, and just like any other designers, we have big egos, but designing typefaces is also a lesson in humility in the fact that your concept is as good as someone else's concept. And when graphic designers rely on your typeface name instead of its appearance to argue in favor of choosing that typeface, or when they rely on the story around the typeface, as far to me, it's as valid as the concept that I had in mind in the first place. So yeah, good execution doesn't make everything, because it's a good execution only leads to extremely boring typefaces, extremely conservative typefaces. But good concepts alone don't make very good typefaces.
But maybe help with marketing.
Come again?
But maybe helps with marketing.
Yeah, but marketing is not a vulgar swear word. I
No,
think
not at all.
the definition of marketing is understanding your audience in order to either propose things that fit to that audience or orientate the audience towards other things. And successful typefaces are either good at one or the other thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, Indra says she agrees. She because she was not talking about typography. She was more talking about typography and design in general, the concept part. Yeah, KBK, there were some very, very thorough research concepts that are like you really have to use all of your brain to to understand the thing, and the end result is like, okay.
But it's fine within the space-time of studies,
Yes.
and it's worthy and it has a lot of value to take a lot of time about thinking. But it's also maybe one of the biggest differences with the professional world, where space-time collides with material factors. So it's I'm I advise the students to be able to also learn how to lose time to make errors, because this is the right moment to do so. There will be less and less opportunities to make mistakes later in their life. So they might as well try and be curious and miss and fail, because if you are later self-employed or working in a team, in-house, in an agency, mistakes are paid cash, either by you, by your team, or by your clients. And second chances don't always happen outside of the educational world.
Yeah, that's good advice. To try to make a lot of mistakes at school. I mean,
And something that I tell type design students, specifically students that are already crafting a typeface, is forget about concept. Don't name your typeface, and this typeface is not for release. So I free them from the pressure of thinking that at the end of the course they're going to have something for the market, right? Because if not, they treat the typeface, the project, as a precious thing that they don't want to change, they don't want to make mistakes, they want to avoid to rethink the letter A, that is always beautiful, letter A, right? But it doesn't fit the system. And I try to tell them that, of course, concept is important, and to be and to love our own projects, but at some point it's an obstacle to grow, right?
That's the good last advice to say, people have to learn type design. You have to learn to kill your darlings and learn to stay detached, to keep a fresh perspective on what you're doing. Yeah.
Zhiqian, do you have a piece of advice too?
Yes, if a student come to me and my advice is the same, I totally agree with Jean-Baptiste Levée or Indra or other guests that I think the most important thing is a typography, not only a type design. I think there are a lot of Chinese students that they focus too much on type design, on drawing a beautiful glyph or the letter form, but they neglect how it will work when they typeset those in a sentence or in a paragraph. So I think typography is more than type design itself. So my advice is focus on typography and know how your type will be used. That is the most important thing, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you for this advice. I'm sure that you've been repeating those many times every year to every new students, the same ones. But it's never said too much, too often. Yeah, I think we can end our conversation here today. It's a super long topic because there are so many things to talk about, but we have to put an end today to it. Maybe there will be another session at another time on the same topic or a similar one that we can follow up. I would like to thank you all. There were a few people here today in the Zoom and a few in the YouTube channel, but I'm sure because it's recorded, it will be viewed by many people. I'm still surprised about the episode 1 or a similar one that we can follow up. I would like to thank you all. There were a few people what happened in the Zoom and a few in the I'm hearing a bug. Okay. Well, thank you again for your time. If you want to say a few last words, it sounds so dramatic. But yeah, I'm really appreciating that all of you came here to this discussion and took so much of your time for it. And yeah, maybe see you next time for another event. And I wish you all a good day, good evening, good morning.
Thank you for organizing this.
Of course, that's my pleasure.
Thanks for putting this together.
Yeah.
Thank you for having all of us.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
good
you.
to know all of you. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you'll get to meet each other in person again. More of you. Thank you all. Bye.
Bye bye.